Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Artcasters number 503. And we've got Gary back on the show. He's not too happy with Jim appearing last week and trying to stay ahead of him. I mean, it's going back and forth as far as who's been on the show the most.
Are we tied up right now? What's going on?
I think Jim is still one ahead of you.
He's one ahead of me? Hold on. Just 1 second. Wait.
He was ahead of you on the 500. Did I miss something?
Okay, I'm back. Now that counts for two. I was out for a little bit. Now I'm back. So now we're tied up, right? Is that how that works?
Apparently, yeah.
We should have an episode where it's just Gary and Jim.
Oh,
and
look at that. Now I'm in the lead. This is amazing. Technology. Okay.
What do you say, Kevin?
Maybe we just have an episode where it's not anybody but Gary and Jim.
Well, they've been on the show too together, so
we can referee.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So I got ahead of myself. Let's do what we always do: go around the virtual room and introduce ourselves. So you're on my channel. That's where you can find me on YouTube. At least one of the places you can find me on YouTube. While you're here after this video, I just put out a video, I think yesterday, and it could use the views. And it's on battling art block or reframing the idea of art block. So definitely check that out if that's something you struggle with. It's a pretty good video, so check that out. Also, I have another YouTube channel, Retro Art Lab, and that's where I take all this old stuff I love from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, me growing up, ephemera, stuff like that, and recreate it and put a weird spin on it. I should have a new video dropping on that channel next week, so stay on top of that. Other than that, you can go to my website where you can find my comic book, which I don't have any in arm's reach, but it's Young and the Dead, Kids vs. Zombie adventure story. Just think Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. That's my stuff. Kevin, what about you?
I am Kevin Cross. I'm an artist. You can find me here on YouTube. Right now I have a woefully I was gonna say undated behind the times portfolio that I have not updated for many years. So just find me on YouTube.
I did change your thing to your YouTube on the bottom here, if you notice that, Kevin, instead of the website.
Now we see it. Yeah. Go there. You can see what I do. All kinds of stuff.
Yeah. All right.
We have a guest.
Yes, we do. Gary, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram under my handle Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots, Dinosaurs vs. Marsbots. You can also find me here on YouTube under my name, Gary Hoges. I create the indie comic D vs. M. I write it and draw it, which is on sale now, by the way. This is the latest issue, Soldier. It's just about 2 months old, pretty new, and I still have just a few. It got the inventory got depleted at ASCAP recently, but I have about 3 or 4 Black Dossier bundles left, where you get the first 3 issues of the series and some stickers and a cool top secret black manila envelope. Yeah. It's pretty fun. So you can get totally caught up on the series for
anyone
a few.
So yeah, I was gonna say anyone that hasn't read D vs. M, I highly recommend it. It's honestly, it's if people ask my recommendations for indie comics, it's my go-to because it really is. Kevin, you gotta. I mean, honestly, you gotta read it. So it's awesome. So
that's very nice of you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you.
So it's very well written, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to get Gary back on the show, because Kevin kind of wanted to talk about writing today, or different writing methods and everything. So I guess I'll kick it over to you, Kevin. Why don't you frame kind of what you're thinking about when you came up with this topic?
Yeah. So I read and write a lot. 2 things kind of brought that up is that someone who's known me for a long time and has mentioned that as I have become more of a reader and also more of a writer, to the point where now I feel comfortable with it. You know, in a sense, I feel like I was doing it for a very long time, but I was really struggling with it. But he noticed that I talk different. You know, I say dude a lot less, and because of what I read, sometimes I put in things that are not part of modern English sometimes because I like the way it sounds. I read a lot of pulp. I watch a lot of film noir and stuff like that. And sometimes when I write that stuff, I write descriptive things become allegory or metaphor rather than oh God, what's a good example? Like say I did something embarrassing. I might say, yeah, I felt like a baggy pants comedian, but I wasn't trying to be funny, instead of saying I was embarrassed. It's right. Like, things like that. So that came up, and then, so I'm working on this animated short right now. And the way I have it, presented, it's in 3 acts, but it's also a trailer. So it's almost like a truncated comic book in like between the scenes. That's where your imagination fills in the gaps, but it follows a story still, even though it's presented as a trailer. And then I had this idea. I went on kind of a long drive recently, going back to California to see my family and stuff. And so I brought my daughter, and we are both fans of that podcast, Welcome to Night Vale.
Oh, I'm not
familiar. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Yes.
So we haven't listened to it for a very long time, and now she's old enough where she gets some stuff, that maybe some innuendo thrown in there occasionally, and my daughter's into weird stuff as I am, and so I had this idea to because I should back up a little bit. So the animated film I'm working on, I'm also concurrently working on a making of behind the scenes book. So it's it's got typical stuff behind the everything that's going on, from of course sketches, production art, but I'm also filling in thoughts, why, a little bit how, not so tutorial, but things like that. And then this idea came up. Scott, you had brought up on an Artcasters, maybe a handful of episodes ago or less, but you brought up the mini comics dump truck that we did years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, God, I'm not making comics. I've got all these other projects, but comics, doing the comics fed into me doing animate my movie and stuff like that. But I was like, I kind of miss that. And then I kind of came up with an idea to build the more lore around little animated short influenced by Night Vale, where it tells the story in a different way, where you get a full story, but when you read it, it's almost like reading newspaper articles.
Okay,
that makes sense.
It
tells the story, and it fills in more lore around this, and I was like, that would be a cool part of the book.
Is this like the pirate story in Watchmen?
Yeah, I guess kind of. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll just be upfront because it is a newspaper based around the town,
right?
That this thing takes place in, yeah. And because what I used to do, what I thought my process was, and it is just, maybe I was a beginner and I was taking every bit of advice. Write everything about all of your characters just in case something comes up, and that way who you're writing about. 26 years later, I'm like, that guy just says one line, things like that. But I wrote a little bit about these characters, just as I was coming up with the idea and writing the story, which actually started off to be a comic book. And my reasoning behind it, just briefly, it not being a comic book, is because when I was working on a comic book, I'd get resentful that I wasn't playing music. And then I would get resentful that, my comic book is, so I'm like, I can throw writing, music, all the audio skills I have, drawing, all that stuff into one package. But it's still, it's, even though it's short, it takes so long. And so anyway, I just kind of, I don't expect it to blow up real huge, but for the people who do like it, and if they get that book when it's done, that might be an extra little fun thing to have, like a novella written in the form of a Victorian newspaper.
Yeah, I'm curious. A couple of things. First, how difficult, Kevin, is it for you to switch to the snowball mic? Because you're touching the mic sometimes.
Is it? I thought I had the snowball mic set up. I'll double check.
Maybe. Oh, you might have to check it in the Video Ninja. Maybe it's not selected.
I can't tell what I'm hearing. It wasn't a big deal, but I was hearing like a clicking or something, like something was tapping, or I don't know. Yeah.
I think did that change it? Because
I think so.
It looks like both the snowball and this was selected.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I got to remember from now on, because we should be able to check that before we go. But what I wanted to say, I wanted to kind of go off of what you were talking about as far as the amount of like backstory and stuff you get your characters. Because I'm really, when you said that, I'm because Gary does a lot of prep when he's writing his book. So I'm curious how much backstory you give your characters, Gary.
I think it actually varies depending on how much we're focusing on that character. So the example, Kevin, you had where it's like, well, this person has one line. It's like, I really, the only thing that's making that character, the only way I'm going to distinguish that character is probably visually. Like, I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about the thing when we talk about the Making Comics guys. It's like, what's his favorite kind of potato chip? Like, like, this is not, he's there to say like, that's 1531, sir. And then that's it. Like, that's all I need him to do. Yeah.
You could have a smock for a convenience store and maybe a certain look, and that says what you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. But so the D versus M books, they have usually a POV character, and each book is really like a deep dive character study on that particular person. Now that person, I really do try to go pretty deep. Not always initially though, not always before I'm writing the script, but as I'm writing the script, it's becoming. So like I might have some really, it's kind of fleshed out. Like I'll have a sense of, what I think their personality is like, and a little bit of their biographical details before we first meet them. So like, did they go to college? Where'd they go to college? Or what kind of work were they doing? Or, like, what's their family like? Are they married? Like, I might come up with basic things like that. But mostly it's like a personality thing is what I'm trying to find.
Yeah.
Like, how do they behave in different situations? How do they behave under pressure? How do they behave if they feel like someone's pushing them a little bit? How do they behave when they're happy? What are they after? Like, just more elemental things. The specifics happen as I'm writing a script. And you're making 10,000 choices of how are they going to react to this? Now, what do they say? Now, what does this person say to them? That's where I think it starts getting very narrow, where you think like, okay, this just happened. How are they going to respond? And how they respond might be individual in a way that suggests a lot about them. And you're going to use that now as like, okay, now this is like a little bit closer to determining how they're going to behave. Like I'm refining who they are as it's going. And that means by the time I finish the script, I might have a much clearer picture of that person than I did when I started, which then when I start doing revisions, it's like, all right, now I'd make it look like this is who they were the whole time. Like going back, and it's like, because maybe 80% into writing the script, I realized like, oh, this person, has a real problem with bullies or whatever, like just making something up. Now it's like, was there always a hint to that? Did I miss an opportunity to tip that, like, or in page 7 or page 4, like making sure all these decisions I made in the writing process now get spread throughout the reader's experience of this character, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time, but I'm constantly washing it and refining it as I'm going.
Yeah, this is all very interesting to me, and I was happy when Kevin brought up the topic because I'm getting into writing, my new book, and as far as the characters go, and I brought this up before, but a lot of the characters in Young and the Dead were sort of based on people I grew up with. So or an amalgamation of a couple people, but I could always go back to, without having all this backstory, I know this person from growing up with them. How would they have reacted to this or this or this? Or what do they think about people who are like this or whatever? So it was all it didn't require a lot of backstory for each character. This new book's a little different, where a lot of these are more, characters out of my imagination for the most part. So it requires a whole other skill, and I don't want to get bogged down in all the minutia of all these different character things, but I also want to know these characters. So it's kind of interesting to see how different people approach that. So yeah,
I think I could be wrong. I don't have kids, so I can't speak with any authority on this, but I am an uncle, so a little bit. My impression is that kids, I don't want to say they'd be easier to write, because they wouldn't. I think they'd be challenging in their own way, but they wouldn't have the accumulated experiences that make a person really kind of complicated as a dramatic figure. They wouldn't have.
Right.
They haven't had their heart broken. They haven't, moved
but
across the country.
Think they haven't. That's the difference.
They think the
world's going to explode because the girl turned them down, and so that's a whole. It depends how you look at it.
Yeah, but like what I mean. Like okay, like speaking like there's a whole host. I mean, we could sit and list them all night. A whole host of adult experiences that you can have that have a huge impact on who you are and how you go on from that point, that kids just have waiting for them. Just wait. You don't even know who you're going to be yet. There's still an element of whatever a person inherently is at base, but now there's all these weird geological layers you're building on top of them of experiences that maybe they're not as burdened by. In writing adults, like in this latest book, I swear this isn't a segue to a pitch, but the latest book was the first one where I had to do 6 characters that were sort of equally exposed in the story. So I had to come up with 6 adults, and it's not just a POV character that I'm really concentrating on. It's they all need to feel pretty fleshed out. It's similar to what you're talking about, where it's I thought about certain people I knew in my life and how they would react. I kind of boiled them down to archetypes, where it's this is the anarchist, this is the this is the weird kind of militant, this is the kind of mopey guy, this is the with that, and then it's this will be the kernel, this is my into him, and I'll go from there, which is you're kind of bootstrapping a character in. I would imagine the hazard is they could be very cliched if you're not careful with that. And that was my thing I was trying to be mindful of, is I may start with sort of a generic idea of he's this sort of guy, but then make sure as I'm building him out, I'm not making it too oh yeah, he's the guy in the war movie that's real churchy, this generic thing that you've seen 15 times.
Right.
I'm going to make sure I'm maybe going left when other people have gone right.
Right.
But
yeah. So Kevin, as far as different writing methods and stuff. So the project that you're working on now versus the writing that you do, because if anyone hasn't seen Kevin's videos, I mean, when Kevin does YouTube videos, there's a story, there's a through line, and there's a story to his videos and everything. So when you're writing, say, a video compared to writing, working on what you're doing now with the unnamed script, I think we can say right now,
well, it's
Agent Peppermints and
Agent Peppermints is the code name.
Yeah,
and that's just because I like old movies, and
right.
used to always. It's not like
it's the Blue Harvest.
It's not like I'm making Empire Strikes Back and I got a million people. I just like the fun of it.
Right.
But it is Agent Peppermints for now. Which, if anyone follows me, will when they see it and it's revealed, they'll be like, oh, I know why you called it that. So there might be a character named that someday. Because, if I like what I'm doing with this and want to do more, I do have an idea for a trilogy, but I'm going to do what Hollywood won't, and it stops there. But that's if I do it. But
nice.
That's if I do it. Anyway, so writing for videos, comics, which I haven't done for a while. I'm going to throw that in there real quick too.
Yeah.
And animation, again, everything's 3 acts. In the videos, even though it's like it's real life, I'm telling I'm not telling fictional stories. There's one where I made up a story. I will say I made up a ghost story based on these experiences I just had while I draw. I don't know if you ever saw that one.
Yeah.
It was the art and adventure, one of the art and adventure ones I've done. But everything else is based on reality, my real life, and I still try to do it in a 3-act structure. So I start with the problem, or in the case of Tropical Sugar Cooks, I guess it was still kind of a problem because it was like, I hate modern society and everything's homogenous, and it's still, and that was kind of all like based on just that premise, and then our premise of let's make this fictional brand, but so anyway, it's really typical to all storytelling, intro, all the stuff, conclusion, and sometimes in videos I'm not super worried about it being like super tight, because sometimes when I'm doing these videos, I have a certain amount of technology. I don't have, a nice camera. I use a phone with a broken, that everything's filmed on this with the broken this. And I think this is the macro one. So I have to kind of fake stuff. And yeah, so I have to fake. Yeah, I did that the first week I got this. And there's tape over it because I was cutting my finger on it. But yeah, pretty awesome. But I just use iMovie. I don't use anything else, so there's limitations to that sometimes affect the story, which sometimes I like better because, limitations.
Yeah, you couldn't tell
more creativity
that you have these limitations by the stuff that you put out.
No, well, thank you. But yeah, I just, intro to conclusion, 3 acts. I sometimes heavily script when I'm doing voiceover, because also another problem is the cinematic thing on here works. But sometimes depending on light, the resolution really sucks. That's why sometimes I love Super 8 film, 16 millimeter film, but I put that filter on it because, hey, I like retro stuff. And so it kind of fits, but sometimes it's masking things. So if I film cinematic, it's only 1080. And the filter I put on only exports at 1080, and then it looks kind of old and stuff. The video option is set, or can go to 4K. It's not so retro 4K. Plus, somehow I've dropped this so many times. If I try to record video, there's this sound that it does.
What?
Yeah, it's annoying. It sounds like a whiny sheep, but that's in the corner and real quiet, but just loud enough so that you'll pay attention to it. But so I've got these limitations, right? And I'm trying to take that also to the animation, where I was an animation major for a year and then switched to illustration. So I've got a little knowledge. I've dabbled here and there over the past 20, 30 years or something. But it's not professional level. My tastes are in animation. My skills probably not, to be honest. So what are the shortcuts that aren't going to look like shortcuts and look more like style choices that I can make? You know what I mean? So those play a factor, but those do kind of affect how I write. you know. Initially I'll go through just kind of sometimes a, you know, rough outline, just not worrying about spelling, just blah, blah, just blabbing it all out. Then I'll go through and cut out a lot. And then I'll do a first draft. This is probably more for the animation in comics, probably more than the videos. Because sometimes the videos I do it quicker, you know. And because I drive a lot, I'm almost kind of like to editing in my head, you know, for the videos.
Yeah.
But still, a lot of the videos have at least 2 drafts. But anyway, I outline what's the 3 acts, and then, you know, sometimes like that algorithm versus artist, that was just outline and then me riffing and cutting out all the ums and you know, stuff like that. Do that occasionally, but so where was I feel like I'm going all over the place. So I got my outline, I do a draft for whatever I'm working on, and then I start cutting the fat. You know, there's some things where when I want to have a film noir kind of delivery, I can get real long-winded because I feel real proud of myself for being so clever. I can't believe I thought of that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, that's got to go. You just save it for another time, which ends up being I forgot anyway, and who cares, you know? But and it, you know, practice maybe for later. But so I start cutting the fat, and like right now, I wish I could cut the fat. I'm just going on and on and on. But yeah, so then I try to write something kind of tighter. And then as far as the videos go, and I'm finding it a little more structured with the animated film, only because of my failure with Monkey Mod, the comic book. But you know, as far as videos go, and probably this will probably show up a lot more with the animated film, is it's not over till it's over. So I do edit still along the way, even when I think, you know, this is tight, this is going to be quick, you know, something still comes up. But it is a 3-act. I try to do it like, especially for video, which doesn't seem very YouTube friendly. It's like you have to go backwards and be like, this video is about this, rather than people jumping into the journey. And I don't want to do that sometimes. And I find that my like maybe little like zinger at the end or Twilight Zone ending, and not saying they're huge or anything like that, those get missed because people are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know? And so I'm trying to kind of restructure the writing, but I don't like it. I don't like saying what it's about. Look at the thumbnail, read the description. Which people look at the thumbnail, they don't read the description. I think it's because I don't.
I don't. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
It's interesting, and it's the way we write stuff and the things that we prefer, and the things that we don't like things you're talking about there. I had an experience. I was watching Pluribus with my girlfriend, and we had watched an episode where I don't know if it was the penultimate episode of the season or not, but whatever it was, it left off with sort of a cliffhanger. And then they go in and they start kind of going into somebody else's story. And Jen, my girlfriend, was like, I don't like when they do that. And I said, oh, that's interesting, because every single issue of Young and the Dead, I love doing that in my stories. Like I never pick up right where the last issue went off. I'll go to a different scene, or like, for instance, between the first and second issue, it was a flashback. It was meant to look like it was continuing from that episode, but it you know, I kind of pulled the rug out and it's actually a flashback. But there hasn't been a single issue of that that I haven't used that little technique. So now I'm, you know, and I hadn't really thought, you know, and like you were talking about being clever, like, oh, not wanting to take that out or whatever, because it's clever. And to me, I think I'm being clever, but maybe that doesn't work for everyone. but still to me, that's just how I like to write, to the point where I think we
Right.
did a writing session, and I think I might even have brought that up, that I was worried that this new issue of my comic was just one continuous story and there weren't any cuts in it. And to me, that was problematic, but I don't really think it is problematic. I think it's just one way to tell a story. So do you guys ever run into anything like that where you have little, tricks under your sleeve, or certain ways you like to write things that up until then, I didn't know that, because to me that builds builds suspense, and you're wanting to know what's going to happen, and you don't just go there right away.
I've got lots to say about that.
Yeah.
Let's hear from Gary.
No, actually, I would like to hear your thoughts, because I'm still cooking. So go ahead.
Okay. So when I do comics, and probably animation, also visual storytelling, we'll just say, in comics, I want a mini cliffhanger on every page turn. Not every page turn. All right. So now if I was to write something maybe for the big companies, and if I was able to know that there was like an ad that was only on one side, I might put a tiny cliffhanger before the ad, but I know oftentimes the ad is kind of on, two sides of a page. So but still maybe I might take that into account. But doing indie comics, every page turn is a cliffhanger. If it's going to cut to another scene, like in television or movies where you are going to go watch other characters, the palette changes.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking black and white comics, I'd have to put more thought into that, because, for a long time I was a comic book colorist. So I thought a lot in those terms, but I might put clues, maybe there's more blacks on the page if they're inside, maybe they're, just maybe ink it slightly different, so there's different lighting or something like that, obviously different environment, because I also like, if you're going to change to a new environment, you gotta put the environment shot on there. You can't just
establishing shot.
So there's things like that. God, I know there's something
real quick while you're thinking about that. I want to, because to me, I love that. But I remember there was a show I used to watch called Prison Break, and it seemed like every commercial break there was like a major cliffhanger. I was like, this. I mean, not only are riveted from episode to episode, but every commercial break. I mean, there was a cliffhanger, and it's just amazing how they pulled it off. Lost.
I feel like Lost used to do that too.
Yeah,
every commercial break was like, it would like be a like. And then like music, and then commercial. Yeah,
but that's
always teeing it up.
That's a hard trick to pull off in comics, and if you can do it, that's awesome. But I'm wondering if you ever worry about running the risk of we've talked about this before, with some of our friends, but like people who write like web comics where it's an ongoing story, but it's also like a gag a day, like a combination where you've got that gag a day, but it's a continuing story. So it's almost like you're kind of, in some ways, you're kind of forcing this gag in there, and it's almost like a stumbling block to get to the next thing. So so it's how do you pull that off without it kind of almost? I mean, if you do it well, then it's just like more anticipation each time you turn the page. But you run the risk of like start and stop type of thing.
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief, but that's why I say, like, you add in those micro cliffhangers so that not everything is like guy falls off the cliff, like where the term comes from,
right?
From the old serials. Because if you do that, it takes away the weight of certain actions. So I think you want to think of it like, I've said this years ago on videos, where it was like, because of my music background too, it's like you almost think of it like a song with dynamics, right? Now I love hardcore punk rock and thrash metal, and a lot of that stuff is, and then, but when there's like the breakdown, it feels like something, or like like a guitar that goes from that, like you're in the pit to all of a sudden you're listening to like the most sensitive Cure song, and you get those dynamics. It's like takes you someplace on a journey, and so I think you want to do that, and so that kind of brings up another point that might be a little bit going off the topic, is like a song, if you're going bananas, quote, this is, I guess, an allegory metaphor, I don't know. If you're going nuts in your story, or your song, you want to hit them with, like, you're getting all minor and weird time signatures. You got to hit them with the major key, 3 chords next. I feel comfortable. I know this. You know what I mean? So you get those dynamics. So that's why I think when you say cliffhanger, most people do think of like the real, like, oh my God, I can't wait till next week to watch this thing. It pisses me off that it's over, or I need to go to sleep. I'm going to watch 3 more episodes, but if you do that too much, it's just, all right. Okay.
Yeah. You got to give people time to breathe.
Yeah. You got to give people what you want, and you also got to give yourself what you want, and take them on a trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. I think there's I like the way you're describing almost like mini cliffhangers. Like I'm a big believer in that but the way I kind of think of it, it's the same thing as there's like a momentum you're trying to maintain. So as long as it still feels like you're keeping the bike going, like you're pedaling, like I think the thing you want to be afraid of is at any point, especially like if you're doing the weekly web comic or the daily web comic or in a physical book, like you're getting to a point. I myself am uncomfortable having anything in there where a reader might say, this seems like a good place to break.
Yeah,
like,
you don't ever want to stop.
I don't want that. Yeah, because that to me is
done.
like you stopped the bike. Like, and now you got to put your foot down, or else it's gonna, like
harder to get going.
Yeah, it's like no. There always has to be a little bit of momentum, even if it's small. Even if it's just like there's a conversation happening, and you're kind of curious what. It's not life or death, but you're kind of curious what this other person's going to say back. Like just there's still some momentum happening. I totally understand what Jen was saying. And I was thinking about it. It's like, I know I've had that experience. I know I've had that experience. I don't know if I did with Pluribus, but I know I've had that experience of watching something where there's like a multi-threaded plot. And it's like, all right, cliffhanger. Now let's see what that guy's doing. And it's like, ugh, I don't care about that guy. Let's, and
and she did say she understood why they're doing it, but she just didn't prefer it really. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And that's also, you were like, well, I guess some people, may not like that. Some people will not like anything, there's no thing you can do that everyone is going to buy into. So it's like, there's a level of like, whatever. I think though that like what she observed, what I felt myself, to me, that's a symptom of the 2 threads. Either one is less interesting to the reader or the watcher or whatever we're talking about, which that could be just out of your hands. It's like this character's journey is not as interesting, to that particular reader. Or maybe fundamentally there's a problem with plot B, so plot A has them really engaged. But what? Now we're on the casino planet? Like, I don't care about the casino planet. Like, and like, it's like, let's get back to Kylo and
let's
Rey,
get back to the story.
Right. Yeah. So like, to me, like, that's not like, not to, gosh, everyone take a drink.
Here we go.
The Last Jedi is a good example to me of the second problem, where it's not so much that, oh, see, you can't do like multiple plot threads. It's like, no, like they all have to carry equal weight. Like you have to be equally invested in them for that to work. And maybe in Jen's case, it was like whatever we switched to, it's like, I'm not as wrapped up in this as I am the thing we're switching from.
Right.
I don't because I tend to be single POV with my stories.
Right.
I don't have to worry so much about like, all right, let's table this and we'll switch over. Unless I'm doing like a time skip or something. But I'm thinking more about like keeping the momentum going, where I want it where, and this is exactly what Kevin was talking about. Like with every panel, you're kind of curious what is going on in the next panel. And with every page, you're kind of curious, like, all right, well, what's going on in the next page? And I kind of want to just tease you along like that till like, whoops, you've read the whole comic.
Yeah,
like
and your books are self-contained, so
yeah,
so it's not like you're gonna get to the end of the issue and there's gonna be a cliffhanger because it's self-contained. So
or at least the cliffhanger is. I mean, D versus M, yeah, each issue is standalone. The cliffhanger is just like, how is this all going to conclude?
Yeah,
right. Which that's an easy cliffhanger to like set aside. Like it's more like, what happens to this guy I've been reading about, or what happens to this girl I've been reading about? That's the one that I think you need. The bigger thing of like with Pluribus, like, so what are these aliens? Like that is something, it's like, you don't need to answer that in the first episode or the 5th episode or the 50th episode. Like you can keep kicking the can on that, but you need to know what's going on with Carol, and you need to know what's going on. Like you need to start, keep those things satisfying and with some closure. But
yeah. And I mean, you brought up like a plot A, plot B. Writing more long form, I like to have A, B, C. And A is always the big thing. So if you're going to cut away, it has to serve A. B has to serve A, and it's a smaller thing that will become A. But so when you say holds equal weight, I'm assuming you didn't mean at the very same time, but it needs to like, they need to kind of work towards towards the end, or if you're like episodic and you're just going to keep on going on, then just constantly, move B to A, move C to B, stuff like that. And the C plot might just be like, somebody said something, he reacts to it, that kind of affects B, and that B reaction really affects A. So you can move that on. And C might be a completely different story, but you're starting that. You might be introducing someone, a character, whatever, So that's,
or you're starting to see, like, these seem totally independent, but you can, as the reader, you can kind of foresee like, oh, there's sort of a collision course here, or an over, like I can kind of see like, like it's going to get there. Right now, they're having nothing to do with each other, but you can see how they're both going to end up sort of in a similar spot.
Yeah.
Like that can keep you interested. There's lots of, trick depending on the story.
Yeah.
How to keep you, I think the big fear is like someone's reading something that's like, I don't know why I'm reading this. I don't know why I care about this person. Like, what difference does it make? Like, I want to get back to, I think it's tricky, but even if you don't want to tip your hand just yet, you want to, I don't know. Some of it is trust. This is something I was talking about with somebody recently, is like, there is an element of, as a reader, letting go and trusting the creator that you're not going to waste their time.
Right.
Like, we can do everything right. We can like spend a lot of time thinking about it. We can do all our drawing. We can do all our writing. We can kind of think it all through. We can try to do the best possible thing for a reader. But if the reader isn't willing, like if the reader's going to read like half a page and be like, I don't know, and just not give themselves even a chance, or like, is this going anywhere? It's like, you kind of have to trust it's going. So we're asking them to give us the benefit of the doubt and just hang in there. And hopefully it will prove it to them.
Yeah. I never had any doubt that Vince Gilligan wouldn't wrap these things in together, which he did. So,
Pluribus is good, but like for us with indies, like, I mean, one of the joys and sometimes disappointments of an indie is like, you don't know what you're picking up.
Well, I love indies.
You don't know what you're doing.
I love indies, but I can tell you that I've read far more poorly written indies than I have.
Oh, totally. Which makes perfect sense, because it's like, there's no there's no bouncer at the
Mhm.
door. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of what I love about indie is like, I had an idea and I can make it and I can get it in people's hands.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
through sheer force of will. Now, will is like free, you know, like, I mean, there's lots of people putting stuff out there where it's like, woof, you know, like so that's even more so as an indie. Like I've been thinking more and more about this because I think it was a conversation in the Crestline chat where our friend Keith got some weird feedback, like from a reviewer where it was like, I couldn't really tell if this was going anywhere. And it's like, well, you got to hang in there and see if it's going somewhere. Like that's the sad thing is like, if you check out, but I blamed it on, you know, there's a lot of, not to be mean, like believe me, I love the worst indie creator more than most big two creators, you know, just because I respect what they're doing.
Right.
But there's a lot of garbage out there.
Yeah.
And it would only take one or two bad indie experiences where you're like, I don't know, this is like taking a weirdo supplement from an herb shop. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, I don't know what's in it. I don't know if this is worth my time. Like, you know, and they want to go with something safe. So I think, like I said, I'm thinking more and more about respecting the fact that they have to put trust in me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, you know, that's kind of brings up something I've been thinking about lately too, because when I started YouTube years ago, it was about me making comics, an indie comic. And, you know, like I said, I can't remember if I said this off before we started or if I said at the beginning of this, I was starting to resent, well, I'm not making music. And then making music, I was resenting that. Okay.
I think it was on the show. Yeah, I forget too.
Yeah.
I think it was on the show. Chat, let us know.
Yeah, I think I said it in the beginning. What was my point now? Sorry. Oh, my point is, so what I'm up to now is different than I used to do. So, and it's been kind of inconsistent with my output on YouTube and stuff like that. So, I feel in a way back to the beginning where, and I don't know if I'm just like giving advice or not, but I think as an indie creator too, there is a lot of garbage out there, but it's kind of awesome that we live in a time. It's harder to get seen and it's going to take you longer, but the cream does rise. Mm-hmm. And the point I'm getting to is you do have to be fine with that and understand that once you do kind of get an audience, I don't know, fans makes me feel egotistical, but you get an audience, then I think they're going to trust you already if they like you, hopefully. But there is a time period of vetting. I haven't done any animation other than like a couple stop motion things or like a real quick 4-second thing on my YouTube videos, like 2D animation. I haven't told a story. People haven't seen the story yet. I haven't done anything like that since 2009. So there's a vetting that's going to have to happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm just saying, you know, be aware of it. It's a fantastic. We've got the internet. The doors are wide open, but that means it's wide open to everybody. So you just got to try harder and be patient.
Yes, but that's also where, and this is why I'm so appreciative when someone like Scott says something nice about my work, is like, it's so helpful, like I mean, I don't know if the average reader appreciates how important and how valuable it is to vouch for something that you did that they liked. You know, I don't know, like that really becomes to me like the currency of the realm, where it you know, because there is like what, you know, Andrew Keene refers to as the ocean of garbage. You know, there's just so much stuff, and like there's great things out there, but how do you find it? And I think the most important, most useful, most valuable thing is someone saying like, I read this guy's comic and it was great. Or I watched this guy's animation and it was really fun. Like just something where it's like, okay, now I've heard it 2 places. I saw Kevin talking about it, and I saw Gary saying, yeah, it was really good. Okay, well, maybe I should check it out, or something like that. Like, just it's maybe the only way to get through the noise. I don't know if there's another way. I really don't, unless you're going to just pay Meta a bunch of money to promote your stuff all the time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that kind of, when people really like what you did it independently. It's well earned. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And because you're making stuff, sometimes for years.
Yeah.
And you don't know, am I wasting my time? You might be having a good time yourself. You're creating. We're artists. We like to do it. Right.
Right. We would do it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right.
But we're also human. So you kind of like,
sure,
like me.
Yeah.
What I did,
Right.
And then when it's all, you're like,
yeah,
fuck, I worked super hard on that. Your mom's always good. Dad, nice work.
Right.
But when it's someone you don't know, or someone who is maybe critical, a friend, whatever, and they say they dig it, you feel like you really earned it. And I say this, I've worked for big comic book companies, and I've done work for them where I was like, this is awesome. And I've done work for them where I'm like, I don't give a shit. This sucks. And then they've give me the pro badge at San Diego, and I'm signing a comic book with something like my 12-year-old self would be like, you worked for this. And I don't care. But people only want my autograph because they know the IP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not because of the work I did. Because I never did anything major. It's mostly, sometimes I'd ink a little bit, but mostly I was a colorist. No one cares about the colorist. I do. No one else. Not a lot of people do.
Right.
Yeah. So I
don't
know if my point was made.
No, it's no, you're right. I mean, I am a big believer in, people who have followed me for a while, they've heard me say a million times. I really do believe, at least for myself, the work itself has to be satisfying to me. And everything after that, like once it's printed and it's for sale, that's all a whole separate thing. But I need to be happy enough and satisfied enough and enjoying the process enough where even if there wasn't that part of it, like I would still be into it. But that said, you don't want it to be like this weird vanity project. You don't want it to be this weird narcissistic, preoccupation where it's like, I have my 32,000 page epic history of my fantasy world that I'm writing, and and no one's ever going to read it because they won't, it just becomes this kind of mental illness where no, you want some kind of evidence of like, this isn't just for me, right? It needs to be mostly for me.
Yeah,
like,
you have to start for you.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think it kind of has to begin and end with you, but that external, like, no, this isn't a purely like, pardon me, but masturbatory thing that you're doing where it's just like, I just do it because I like doing it and the rest of it is all nonsense. Like it helps to have someone once in a while look at something you spent this time on that you're pleased with, that you would do it even if there was no audience at all, and say like, no, this is cool and I'll pay you money for it. Like, that's nice. It makes it feel less, if nothing else, less selfish.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff, I mean, it's obviously like monetary rewards mean we get to eat and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And that possibly affords us more time to make more things,
Right.
And some of the accolades are fuel, and
I'm curious. I want to poll the group here. This is something I've struggled with. I've found, look, while the accolades are great and selling comics are great and nice reviews are great, and seeing the same people over and over, like every time there's a new issue, like it's like, that's amazing. This is a personality defect for sure, but I'm curious if it's maybe universal. as great as that is, it falls right through me like water through a strainer. Like, I mean, it's like in that moment, I love it. If someone comes up to me, it's like, I read your books. They were great. You have a new one. Oh, I got to get it. Like, I feel great for about 45 seconds and then it's totally gone, like totally gone. And so but that's also instructive to me where it's like, I clearly this isn't, I think it's a good sign. I would prefer that to the opposite, where it's like, if I don't get the applause, I'm going to hang myself. Like, that's not, I don't want to ever be in that zone.
Yeah. Cause then you get complacent, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're pandering, you're like, what's the thing that like will get me the most, whatever, the like you're chasing some idea of like what you think the audience wants. Yeah, and like that is never.
Yeah, I
that's always been a
as
gross
being
idea.
something to look out for. But I don't know that's necessarily my experience, because I mean, one of the things that every once in a while, like, because I've been like Kevin, I've been doing YouTube content for a long time and pretty consistently, and and there's times where it's like, sometimes it's like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But then every once in a while I'll get like somebody will send me a letter, or like somebody will just mention, take the time. Just every once in a while I get things like this, or people will tell me that they did this because of my videos or something like that.
Yeah. And
that just means the world, and it just because sometimes I lose sight of the fact that all the stuff that I'm doing is actually helping people, because you're not always going to get that feedback. But when you know that what small percentage of people is it going to take to send you a letter to thank you, that means that there are probably many other people that it have helped. Or maybe even like they watch a video and it's the only video they ever watched of mine, but something clicks that connects and creates something else, some butterfly effect or something. So it really helps me to know that I'm actually, I'm actually, this actually, whether I get the feedback or not, that it's happening, and that I'm helping people. So so that stuff, and I keep that stuff when whatever, whether it's a letter, or
totally,
whatever, even like I've got one on my fridge that's somebody had ordered some of my wax packs, and they just went on with how wonderful it was that I'm recapturing the stuff that they remember as a child or whatever, and just things like that. So it's I mean, that stuff just, to me, it makes it feel like it's worth my while. So
it is great. And you're right. I mean, if someone gives you a compliment, it's sort of the inverse of, I remember I did a lot of food service in high school and college, and the thing, the old adage of, for every one roach you see, there's 100 more someplace else. Right. Well, every compliment you get on your work, like there's 100 more that people are just, they liked it and they just didn't say anything. So it's kind of reverse cockroach. But no, it is great. And like I said, I think it's a personality thing with me, where I wish I could like bask in that warmth a little bit longer.
But it is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So say I'm at a comic book convention, I've got a comic book, or there's a comic book I worked on. People say, you did this is just fantastic. It doesn't last 45 seconds. It lasts for the remainder of the day. Or if it's a long convention, it might carry over a few days. But then when I get home and now I'm alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that demon comes in and goes, you suck, you're a fraud, and all this kind of stuff like that. With music, I was lucky enough for the kind of stuff bands I was in was not mainstream at all, and it was never gonna be. It was not like what people thought of. Oh, punk exploded in the 90s. To me, that was not punk rock. It was fine pop rock. It just wasn't my thing, I guess. And then this one particular band, we put out a record. We're a West Coast band from the Bay Area, California. Nobody comes to our shows. Nobody. The record's out. Nobody's coming to the shows. Label says you got to go on tour. Well, that's fun because I'm young. I don't care, you know. Let's go on tour. We end up in New York. We play CBGB. Turns out it was one of our we were touring to get there for a showcase for our label. There used to be the CMJ, which is College Music Journal. It's kind of like, I guess, the East Coast version of South by Southwest, kind of. And so we were at CBGB playing for our label. I'd never been there. West Coast kid. I'd never toured, I think, past like Nevada at that point or something, you know. Everybody knew the words. Oh my God, this is amazing. Go back home. Oh, we're going to play our hometown show. Nobody's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's those like doses of reality. You're just not going to be for everybody, or for whatever reason, your crowd hasn't found you yet, going back to kind of what we were saying. You know, so I do kind of go through that up and down. I've been lucky enough to play with some bands that were, and still gotten to be friends now with some of the bands that were legendary to me as a young punk in the 80s. And then, by the 90s, I'm going on tour and playing with them and stuff, and got a lot of advice, like stuff that would beat me up, a real bad review back then. Like, oh, I thought we killed it on this album. Someone just hates it, but they're critics. They're not in a band. Who cares? And so I got this like you just don't want a mediocre review. You want to be loved or absolutely hated. And if
I would agree with that.
And if that's it, you're gold.
Yeah.
And so over time, I was like I got I got a review for the last album. I was in this band Pitch Black, and we were kind of gothy hardcore punk rock. But our last album, which we didn't think was going to be our last album, we got a little more post-punky. We took more like Joy Division influence and stuff like that. And it slowed down, and a lot of people were like, what is this? And I think we thought we were the Clash. We were going to change every record or something, I don't know what we were thinking, but it was what we were feeling at the time. Got terrible reviews. And at this point, I'm a professional illustrator. I'm working professionally in the field. And I did this very propaganda looking, rather than our like ghosts and ghouls and zombies and stuff on our covers, I did this very graphic propaganda, like old like Spanish war propaganda style thing. Yeah. Well, there's a guy, and I won't say his name, was a punk guy who was a reviewer for a pretty big magazine for alternative music, but he also did real I don't like him, so I'm going to say self-indulgent slice of life comics about how rad he is. and it got kind of popular for a real short time. He wrote, I don't trust this. It looks too nice. This band's trying to sell out and all this shit. 2 weeks after I read that review, we were at an after party in San Diego, and he's talking to me, and we're, and he said something. I was like, oh, you're that guy. and I didn't let on that, because I wanted to, but I was like, I'm gonna just let it slide. Who cares?
I think I would have.
I was like, there's been a couple things. Like there was when I moved where I live now, there was a kid who was I was like in my 30s at that time, so I'm not looking like super punk anymore, and I think I was wearing like a Fred Perry track jacket, so I was really into the mod stuff too, and this kid, 15 at the time, Liberty spikes, looked like he looked like I dressed.
I think I remember the story. Go ahead.
Yeah, and brutally based on, I don't know if you know the band GBH or something, I was like, supercharged hair, leather jacket, spikes everywhere. I always had like handcuffs, dog chains through the epaulets and stuff like that. Kind of looked like that. And he was like, get out of here, indie rocker, get out of here. I was walking past this punk club. But my friends in town who I'd made weren't into it. And I promised to hang out with them. And I okay, now I know where the place is. It's a place I had played before I moved. I just didn't know where it was in context of where I was now living. And I was like, okay, I'll just come back by myself another time or whatever. I'll make friends because there's a community around it, right? So I'm walking past, this kid's yelling at me, indie rocker, blah, blah, blah. And I think he's talking to one of my buddies who I actually met this crew through Ape in San Francisco, where I moved from. Alternative Press Expo for anybody who indie comics.
Is Ape still a thing? I don't even remember.
I know that San Diego bought it, and I think they dissolved it.
Yeah.
But anyway, but this is how I met, my friends who are up here. They're into like Alice in Chains and stuff rather than like Black Flag and Minor Threat, if that makes any sense. And so fine, hanging out with my new friends, and this kid, and I thought they were talking to my friends who had brown shoes. I was wearing all black. Come on, He's like, get out of here, indie rocker, blah 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 blah. And my friend, who was probably, and this is lovingly, probably the most square of the bunch, he goes, dude, that kid's yelling at you. And I turn around, he's got my band shirt on that I drew. I drew that shirt. I started that band, and we had gone far enough, and I wanted to be like, that was another moment where I wanted to say something, but then I was like, I was still getting royalties, so I was like, yeah, let it go. This is a funny story now,
Yeah.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent.
No, that's crazy. I would have found that hard to resist too, but
yeah. Anyway, yes, sometimes I do feel bad.
It sounds like he was a poser if he was wearing your shirt and he didn't even know who you were.
You know what he was, Scott? He was a kook.
Yeah,
he was a straight up kook. Which is funny to think because now he's probably 35. Because that was about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
he could be the squarest of all of us, maybe by now.
Yeah. Some of my friends who are the most punk are just, they're like playing pickleball and working at insurance companies now. But, still love them. But what was I was going to tie it in somehow, but anyway. Yeah, sometimes I feel I do that demon does show up, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've gotten kicked in the nuts enough that sometimes I can brush it off. And like Scott said, on occasion I'll get a message where somebody says I helped them. Those don't go away.
No.
Those never go away for me.
Well, or the people who, for me, like the ones that I played a part in inspiring them to finally do it.
Right.
Like
yeah. I would put that in that category too. Yeah.
Yeah. That I do remember all of those, and those do stick with you, and they mean a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that. I was trying to think of a particular instance, but we had now I'm trying to hold on 1 second. I think I've got it right here. So I won't read the letter he wrote, but we had, let's see, here we go. Where's the, it's here somewhere. I'll find it. Sorry. I'm trying to remember. I think Tyler, but we had him on the show talking about this book, and he sent me this book, which is just an incredible book. And he sent me an original piece of artwork and a really neat note saying that I inspired him to create that book. And looking at the book, it's like really cool book. So it's like that kind of stuff. That makes it all worthwhile. And then you start to think is, maybe I never have this massive successful book that everyone knows about or something, but it's entirely possible that maybe I encouraged or maybe I helped somebody along the way that does have that kind of book or career or something like that. And that's kind of, to me, that's some form of legacy or something that you're putting stuff out in the world that's helping people, you know, achieve success and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, and I always try to, for me, like the kind of the thing I try to return to and remind myself of from time to time is when I decided I was going to release a book and start being like a public artist, like a public comic creator. I think my ambition really, once I got beyond the just simple ambition of like, I would like to follow through on a project. I would like to finally finish something. I would like to show myself that I can do this, you know, because I had all these sort of half finished things, third finished things. And I was like, you know what, I've made myself disgusted with myself. I want to see something through and I want to get it out. And so once I had something done, I've talked about this in my videos years ago. When I finished my first book, I did consider like, I don't even have to release this. I kind of proved to myself like I could make a book. And, you know, like but now that once you have it, it's like, well, I might as well, like now that it's done, I mean, I guess I might as well get it printed and try and sell it. Once you cross that threshold, the thing that I always try to concentrate on and remind myself of especially when I feel like I'm losing my way, or I'm not sure if I'm happy, or I'm not sure, is this as satisfying as it used to be, whatever, all the stuff that can get in your head, is all I really wanted to do was participate in this thing called art, like publicly. I just wanted to do it. I mean, it's very maybe corny, but like the chorus of it, I just wanted to do my part. You know, and like people don't have to be into it, but I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be able to look back and say, like, my life was spent contributing to capital A art. I did something too. And even with that in mind, even if there's one person, and one like did this in my last book, not the most recent one, but the last one, they like came to me and it's like, oh my God, this one part, it like kind of made me cry. Like to me, it's like we're done here. Like that's it. Like, I mean, I could, that's something where it's like, that's participating in capital A art. Like I did a thing that affected
someone. Yeah.
They didn't just like it. They didn't just give me $10. It got in, you know, and they bought it. These black and white scribblings, for a second, they saw that as a person and they felt for them, you know, and it's like, that's it. That's you know, what the hell else is the point if you're going to be putting art out there, you know? And it doesn't matter if it's one person to me or 10,000 or 1 million, you know, like it's like you got that. You did it. You connected.
Yeah. The last video I did, I even said see if I can remember how I worded it, but you know, I was basically saying, why did I get into this? Why would I play in bands so long? Why did I want to do visual art? And it was just wanting to be a participant, not just a spectator.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, I played in loud music. People just, what is this chainsaw? What are you screaming about? Why is there an F word all the time? Some people liked it. I liked it. It was never going to go out of a small room. I was lucky that it did sometimes, you know,
right?
And that people liked it there. But when we would play in a bigger room, like go on tour with a popular, bigger band, it was maybe more poppy than us, which we did from time to time. Most people hated us. And so I got that dose of like, you know, that a couple people or maybe I could look out in the crowd and see everyone. I want the headliner band, but I saw like 2 kids up front.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like, this show is for you.
Yeah.
For you. Yeah, right. That's why what you said before, it's like, a sort of a lukewarm review is the worst one.
It's the worst.
I think, you know, of course you want to connect. That's number one.
Yeah.
So the people who love it, that's great. The people who are like, this was exactly wrong for me, that almost feels not so bad to me either.
No.
You know, like people who are like, too loud, too weird. That's not what I wanted. It's like, well, at least there's something for them to react to.
Yeah. If it's like,
go ahead.
No,
I I used to in a past life review video games for Village Voice Media. So just as a critic, the hardest reviews to write were the ones where like I don't even really know what to say about, like, it's fine. Like that's the worst. And to me, that was the most damning, because to me, polarizing is actually the best thing art can be, personally. Like, and the example that I've always remembered is, I think it was Steven Soderbergh was talking about, he was complaining about Rotten Tomatoes and how like a lot of people are like, oh, it's only like 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Half people didn't like it. And he's like, we've lost sight of the fact that art can be polarizing, and that's a good thing. And imagine if Rotten Tomatoes existed when like 2001 came out, and like what the score would be. Like, to say that like, oh, there's something wrong with 2001 because it's not 100% on the tomato meter is madness.
There's not enough shooting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's boring. I didn't get it. Like, you can imagine all the dipshit reactions.
Yeah. Where's the monsters?
We did not one alien in the space movie, and
right.
But to me, like, it's a good indicator. Like, hating something might actually be a good sign. I just saw a review today of The Bride, the new movie with I can't remember the actress's name, but Christian Bale is Frankenstein. It's like a bride, and it's got like a weird, like, Bonnie and Clyde 30s setting, and I guess it's got musical bits, like there's dancing and stuff. And I was reading the review, and I got to the point where they said, it didn't have spoilers, but it said, this is absolutely a movie that was not workshopped. Like, there was never a room of executives saying like, what can we do to make this like a little, it's like, no, it is weird and bananas, and people are going to love it or hate it. Like it's different for sure. That's all I needed to hear. Is like, now I'm psyched about seeing this movie. Like, I want to see this. Yeah.
Your summation of it makes me want to see it really bad.
Totally.
For some reason, I thought it was like not what you explained.
Yeah.
And I have a big like love of
sounds right up your alley, Kevin,
and stuff like that. And if it's bananas, perfect.
I'm in.
Right.
Just like the same thing you were saying, like, coming out, I think the movie experiences that I've been most disappointed by are the ones where I was like, I didn't need to see that. Not that I hated it, but just, it was like, I remember I saw it, this is 1,000 years ago, but I saw Addams Family Values or something. And I was like, oh, more Addams Family. And I came out of it and I was like, it's the same thing. Like, and I was so bored. And it's like, that's to me the most damning thing. I would rather come out of a movie and say like, I hated that. That was weird. What was going on with, why did they do, at least now I have something to talk about.
Right. Yeah. Well, that, I just interrupted myself because I wanted to go say two things at once that slightly different. I was just going to say, real quick, I did music reviews for a punk magazine for a time. If I don't know if you're familiar with like what your tastes are, but Maximum Rock and Roll was like a big.
One of those indie rockers. I'm just kidding.
I'm one of those indie rockers that get heckled. Yeah, right.
Well, maybe when they do
by a 15-year-old, by a fucking,
you'll be like, that guy's wearing a t-shirt for my comic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's this zine. It's been around for decades now at this point, called Maximum Rock and Roll. It was started by two guys, and one has since died, but when he was still alive, the two guys started butting heads really bad over, I can't remember what. But the origin of the Maximum Rock and Roll is where I'm from. So, you just know everybody, and so this other partner breaks off from Maximum Rock and Roll, starts his own kind of version of it called Hit List. And I was doing, I guess I was in a band that was okay. So known locally, not like big celebrity guy or anything, but in the punk scene enough. And so I was asked to do music reviews. And knowing that this guy was kind of a shit stir, I think he put stuff in my stack that he knew I wouldn't like,
Yeah.
and that he didn't like, so that I'd write a bad review and slam someone. So what happened was first thing, because when I was a little teenager getting into this punk rock, Maximum Rock and Roll was like, you got to read, they had a radio show, I would tape it and it was on late. So I'd listen to it in my Walkman at school. I'd read the magazine, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh my God, it's not Maximum Rock and Roll. It's Maximum Rock and Roll Part 2, I'm part of it. This is awesome. I was like, there's like one CD. This was like the era when everyone was going away from vinyl. Tapes were way dead. It was all CDs. And so I was like, there's like one thing I'm interested in my stack. And, I discovered some new stuff through it, but I started writing my reviews and I thought, well, God, maybe I want to stick around. I gotta write a review for everything. And I hate it. I fucking hated this one album so bad. The real reason is it's not in my wheelhouse of taste.
Sure.
I don't think objectively the musicians were good. They could write a song. They were better players than me. I just didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I have a Black Flag tattoo. Don't ask me to review Dave Matthews Band. It was something like that,
Right.
And,
of course.
I'm not saying if you're a fan, great. I'm just not.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. My taste. But I was writing this awful review. And I ended up calling him and I was like, I can't do this. And he goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? This is awesome. You get all the free records and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to slam a band because I don't like it. I was like, right. I'm only going to write reviews for things I like.
That I have something to say about, like that.
Yeah.
The video game equivalent was I always waved off. It's like, oh, there's a new Madden game. You want to review it? And it's like, I don't even like real football. So I'm certainly not playing, like a video game football game. Like I'm not the guy. Like
I'm not qualified.
Yeah. And if I did review it, it's like I was totally baffled and lost. I didn't understand the rules. Like, I mean, no one needs that review.
There's not enough shooting.
Yeah, not enough. It's like, it's like the whistle blows. I can't keep tackling people. What? Like, yeah, it was, no, I think you do. But I also believe, and I'm sure you had the same experience writing reviews, to be any kind of a decent critic, you have to very quickly be able to identify the difference between is something good or bad and do you like it or not like it, and how those don't always align. Like there can be things that are great that you don't like. There can be things that are bad that you love. And like being able to like, and sometimes they align where it's like, this is great and I love it. And this is bad and I hate it. But sometimes it's that kind of mix where it's like, I can't give like this, I don't know, like this, if I'm a movie reviewer, I can't give this bad old Kung Fu movie a 10 out of 10 just because I love bad old Kung Fu movies.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's not actually good. I just like it. Like, and being able to kind of distinguish that is important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, is there anything we want to say to kind of cap things off? Because we gotta start wrapping things up.
After all our talk about writing,
we talked a little bit about writing. But
this,
I always tell people the topic is just a springboard to talk about whatever.
I loved it. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
It was great meeting you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I hope to meet you more, especially to stay ahead of Jim Lujan.
Yeah.
So I have to say,
he's in the chat. He's in the chat trying to get on again. So
speaking of reviews,
point, it looked like he wrote Hodges.
Yeah, Jim as a guest, as a former Village Voice reviewer, I'll say 5 out of 10. I don't know. He's fine, but like, I mean, go with a polarizing guest like Gary Hoges, I say.
All right. So if somebody wanted to go with the polarizing guest, Gary Hoges, where would they go to find him?
They would look for me here on YouTube, Gary Hoges. I think it's Gary Hoges D versus M. So my name, DVSM. Or you can find me on Instagram, Dinosaurs versus Marsbots, Dinosaurs vs Marsbots. Both have a link tree that will take you anywhere else you want to go. And then most importantly, my Etsy shop, if you decide you want to check out a book or all of them, who knows?
All right. And Kevin, what about you? Where can people find your stuff?
Here on YouTube at Kevin Cross Art.
All right. And as far as me, you can find my stuff here on YouTube. Like I said, I got a new video up. My other channel is Retro Art Lab. I'll have a new video up there next week. I also have a website, circworks.com, where you can find all kinds of stuff that I make, whether it's wax packs or prints or whatever. And my comic book, Young and the Dead, Kids versus Zombie Adventure Story. Just think Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead, and that'll kind of give you an idea what that's all about. And then this show, the Artcasters, we do this show every single week, and we totally forgot to mention that Josh isn't here, obviously, now that we're almost
we hope
done.
you're having
by
a
the
good
way,
time.
Josh isn't here.
Yes. Josh is actually in Chicago right now on business.
He's
So
safe and having a great time.
yeah. So, but he will be back next week, and we may have sort of a kind of a surprise thing going on next week. We'll find out. So stay tuned for that. But yeah. So if you want to not miss that episode or any of our future episodes, first of all, if you're not already subscribed to Kevin's channel, because he's now an official host, so some of the episodes will be over on his channel, so you want to make sure that he is in your feed. But to make that all very simple, just join our mailing list. There's a link in the description. We don't spam you or anything. All we do is use about 30 minutes ahead of time. We'll put out an email telling who the guest is going to be, whose channel it's going to be on, and all that stuff. So it's a little easier to keep track of since we bounce around. But that'll do it. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. Thanks for keeping the chat going and everything. And man, I do miss the ability to pull up chat on screen, which we don't have anymore. But we are reading the chat, just so you guys know.
Anytime you saw me looking down, it's because I had my phone out looking at the chat. So,
all right, guys. Well, we will see everyone next week. And